very good afternoon to you tuned into Ubc TV. Welcome to our lunchtime news. It's me, Micheal, Lukomwa, and we'll go straight away to what we have for you this afternoon. Kitagwenda district officials are disturbed by an increase in the cases of school dropouts. This was said during an engagement between Kitagwenda district leaders with commissioners from the Office of the President monitoring government projects. Kitagwenda Education Officer Simwe Sedas attributed this to early marriages and the boys who have opted to go for fishing activities at the landing sites.
Commissioners from the Office of the President have been monitoring government projects in Kitagwenda district. Kitagwenda Education Officer Asimwe Sedas hosted the commissioners and attributed school dropouts to inadequate primary and secondary schools in the area. He explained that the survey on learners' retention rate in Kitagwenda district stands at 19 to 24%.
Majorly, the problem facing our system here at the district is the school dropout. When it comes to school dropout, we have a lake in Micheal, that is Lake George, where our boys run for fishing. When it comes to girls, there is culture here, early pregnancies, early marriages, teenage pregnancies. This one has affected the area of the girls. Girls go for marriage and leave schools. We have around 8 parishes without a government primary school and 6 sub-counties without secondary schools, and this one is also affecting our learners, especially long distance. If you go to an area like Ruhunga, where 2 parishes have no primary school, now these learners moving all that distance to come to Charwera, to come to Cheganyo Primary School, others say, let me ignore schooling, let me go home and do other businesses.
The Kitagwenda district.
UBC Lunchtime News. Over 10,000 national identity cards are lying idle at the National Identification and Registration Authority NIRA regional office in Soroti. The owners of these IDs have failed to turn up to collect them.
Most of our people have not picked their national IDs. We have IDs lying, not picked. Yet, we are supposed to replace these national IDs. So I want to call upon the community to go and pick their national IDs, so that it will be possible for them to replace those national IDs with these old ones.
We have over 10,000 national IDs here, majorly students, old people, and any other persons. Cards are here, like you've seen, people, the owners have not picked. While maybe others are still students at school, maybe during holidays, when time comes, they will come and pick them. Only that when they have a problem, that's when someone will come, I want my card, I want this, you know. More so when there are government programs. PDM came in, they wanted cards. They had to run, but they wanted national IDs. They will say this, you know, for the elderly, because they are not paid if they don't have a national ID and a legal one. So you find now that's the time they are very many here they want. So they take it either like a hospital. You know that? When you are sick is when you go to the hospital. So now even here, when you are pressed down there, it's when you run, you want a national ID.
I want to encourage my people to pick those IDs, because those IDs, one day you'll need them urgently. To transfer them may not be easy for you. Why can't you pick these IDs? Right now you see them not to be important, but not every day is the same day. I encourage all our people to go and pick the national IDs. Whoever processed one, go and pick your ID. We take those IDs to use, not to lie there. So please, go and pick these IDs.
In more news, the Commissioner Crop Inspection and Certification at the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Dr. Paul Mwambu, has called for the urgent action against the adverse effects on pressures exerted on the environment by human activities. He was speaking at the launch of the BioDev 2030 Phase 2 project.
Phase 2 BioDev project in Uganda. The BioDev 2030 Phase 2 project aims at promoting biodiversity conservation and sustainable development in Uganda, focusing on integrated landscape management and sustainable agricultural practices. This will be through collaboration at local, government and international spheres to develop strategies that balance environmental conservation with economic development.
Phase 2 now is really focused on implementation on the ground. And part of what we are supposed to achieve is actually designing a very large-scale program in the landscape where we are going to work, but also influencing policy and practice through working together with the legislation, but the legislative arm of government, parliament, but also working together with different ministries, agencies and departments to be able to those ones that are mandated on natural resource management to be able to reduce biodiversity loss in the country.
When we are doing all this, there's a new saying now, I think most of you have heard, it is called the whole of government, the whole of what? Society. You don't leave anybody behind in what you're doing. So that's why I was particularly impressed with these other groups that most of the time they may say they are not involving us. And every time they tell you didn't involve us, definitely it is a gap.
The Commissioner of Crop Inspection and Certification at the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Dr. Paul Mwambo, emphasized the critical state of biodiversity in Uganda, citing human activities like deforestation and unsustainable agricultural practices as key drivers to biodiversity loss.
So as farmers increase land under production, they conflict with the biodiversity. As the communities look for energy, fuel wood or charcoal, and cut down trees to get energy, they also conflict with the environment. So the main thrust of this project is how do we undertake agriculture? How do we do the activities to generate energy and reconcile it with biodiversity?
If you can connect with the nature better, then this planet can live in a harmonious way with human being. The problem with us who are more civilized than what, as we may claim, is that we are very destructive towards nature.
With support from the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the BioDev 2030 Phase 2 project also seeks to explore innovative solutions to mitigate environmental impacts, especially in the energy sector.
In terms of diversifying the energy energy pathways that Uganda is going to take. And what is very critical is that the transition plan is looking at how do we move away from biomass as a source of energy. And so we are looking at renewables mostly. Hydroelectric power, which is expanding. As you all know now, we are almost at above 30% reach in the country, but also other options like solar.
Mary Namkose, UBC News.
A new architectural design for constructing school buildings for the East African region of states has been commissioned. The Commissioner for Secondary School Education at the Ministry of Education and Sports, Juliet Muzora, was at the launch of the draft manual for school designs infrastructure that comes at a time when government is making great strides to increase learning centers.
Infrastructure development is one of the key requirements to set up a good learning environment. The others include improvement on the teaching and learning methods in class.
We're going to go through those that we did not mention. Somebody mentioned the ternary base, so we confirm that, okay?
The Belgian government, through Belgian Development Agency, ENABEL, is implementing school improvement programs in Uganda and the entire East African region.
Uganda would have to build about 8,000 more schools on top of the 5,500 that's already there in order to accommodate them. And so this is a huge opportunity, one, to look at school design and make sure that when we build these schools or remake these schools, that they're really designed in a proper way that facilitates good teaching and good learning.
A stakeholders meeting to harmonize school infrastructure designs has ended in Kampala with key guidelines to improve the learning environment.
The vision to improve the school environment and vis-a-vis the pedagogical needs, actually I'm very happy that you've raised this concern. We have seen our President, His Excellency, rolling out the need to keep our environment green by planting more trees, and preferably fruit trees in schools and school environment. And also the First Lady, under the initiatives of our partners, under the Nehemiah School Greening Project.
The Commissioner in charge of secondary education at the Ministry of Education and Sports, Juliet Muzora Atuhire, says that draft designs will help government to better the education sector, especially the retention of learners in school. Juliet Muzora acknowledges the need to address the entire school learning and teaching of our children.
The greening of the school and environment helps in pedagogical implementation, because when you compare two schools where there is no green comes with the fresh air, the oxygen actually. And when these children are in this natural, beautiful, green environment with fresh air, fresh oxygen, their consistency in studying and reading, and then the enjoyment of their pedagogical practices, and even the teachers, is enhanced.
The Belgian ambassador to Uganda, Hugs Chantry, while launching the program, explained using the existing relationship and support to the education sector.
We are in our partner countries in the East African community, we are most of the time actually focusing inter alia on education, and that means a conference like the one today, that makes a lot of sense for us.
The embassy will now put more emphasis on improving the school learning environment on top of improving the teaching and learning. The conference was organized by the Ministry of Education, Construction Management Unit and Enabel Infrastructure Unit in Uganda. The event attracted participants from across the East African region with the aim of raising awareness on designing schools that are community-centered, better adapted to the climate, more energy efficient, durable, and low maintenance. Sudat Kaye, UBC News.
The Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda is holding an economic forum seeking to highlight new approaches for developing and harnessing the potential of the productive sectors. The forum, held under the theme Enhancing the Productive Sectors for Sustainable Development, aims at complementing the government in the promotion of productive sectors such as agriculture, industry and services, the generators of household income and employment opportunities.
For their input. The Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Uganda is holding a 3-day economic forum under the theme Enhancing the Productive Sectors for Sustainable Development. The president of the Institute of Certified Accountants of Uganda, CPA Josephine Okuyi Osia, says the 12th CPA Economic Forum is aimed at improving a platform for accountants and other professionals to discuss matters concerning national economic policy.
I think it's a time following on from the discussions with government and the need to grow the productivity within the country. So we felt we should also align to that theme, looking at the national development plan that we are developing for the next period, and also the strategy around growing the economy by tenfold. We will not be able to achieve that if we do not address the issues around productivity.
The executive officer of ICPAU, CPA Derek Nkaja, says the discussions will focus on vocational education, empowering the youth for socio-economic development, the contribution of transport infrastructure on economic development, the impact of tax policies and practices on domestic revenue mobilization. Some of the key speakers at the forum include the Member of Parliament for Chira Municipality, Ibrahim Semjunganda, and Senior Research Fellow at the Economic Policy Research Center, Mr. Koti Eliab Paul Lakuma, among others.
But the date that will be maturing that we need to pay is 34 trillion. For the first time, we have more debts to pay in a financial year than the tax correction projection. For the first time, at least in my adult life.
We are working very hard as a government to attract private equity into this economy. and private equity requires that the governance of your business is credible. They can be able to go through your books and understand how healthy your business is.
And we do have what we call the FIRE awards, and we give awards to companies that have demonstrated that they are implementing the principles of ESG in all their aspects, whether it is employment, whether it is procurement, whether it's reporting, the sustainability reporting. So that is how we are trying to impact companies to raise the awareness around ESG and the importance of it, and how it can actually improve the performance of those companies.
Among the participants at this year's forum are accountants, tax consultants, economists, policymakers, entrepreneurs, investment experts, government officials, development enthusiasts, and other professionals. Sudat Kaye and Vincent Wamundu, UBC News.
In more news, the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance has hosted an official from Philippines with whom they discussed cybersecurity and information technology education and advancement. The Ministry of ICT, National Guidance and Ministry of ICT and National Guidance Permanent Secretary Dr. Amina Zawede explained that cybersecurity is vital for technology development and advancement.
We have been visited by one of the deputy ministers from Philippines, from the Department of Information Communications Technology, Mrs. Joselle. She is an advocate for business process outsourcing. She came to attend, she's one of the 900 plus delegates that came to Uganda to attend the International Telecommunications Union conference called the Global Regulators Symposium. So it is out of that conference that she requested to come and visit the National ICT Hub and be able to understand and appreciate the efforts that we have invested towards business process outsourcing. Business process outsourcing is one of those initiatives that His Excellency the President of Uganda is very passionate about, and he knows and he has always repeatedly informed us that it is through this channel that we shall create employment opportunities for our young people. Philippines is the second country after India in BPO. So she's here to share experiences that the Philippines have gone through, and also to let us know what are the low-hanging fruits for Uganda for us to be able to reap from the BPO or business process outsourcing industry.
Now we have also embraced GEO satellite. There are 2 GEO satellites that will soon be launched this year. It's mini satellite but bigger than the LEO satellites, and only 2 satellites would be able to already cover the whole country. Even a little bit of a spillover probably in our neighboring countries. And the 6th is, although this is long overdue, there were a lot of controversies in the past, but this year we also launched our national broadband infrastructure. It will cover the whole Philippines, and we had the support of Facebook Meta, so we have that partnership, and now it's running and supporting around 14 to 30 million of our population, and it will be a 6-year project. It says here that you have a plus.
Local leaders and stakeholders in Busia district have been asked to embrace water search and rescue coordination program by the Civil Aviation Authority of Uganda. This is after registering several cases of water accidents on Lake Victoria around Majanji.
A safety officer, water transport, Norman Gwebayanja, says the number of people drowning in Lake Victoria is on the rise. This was during a sensitization conducted by Civil Aviation Authority in Busia Municipality, Busia District.
The water is extremely rough. Actually, Lake Victoria sometimes is even rougher than some seas. But people keep going there. So we should be on alert between now and I think September. That's when the winds are very much.
Gwebayanja says government has managed to get money from African Development Bank for sensitizing water users and put up search and rescue center points around districts like Busia.
Government of Uganda is also doing as much as it can to guarantee safety on Lake Victoria. The government has got funding from the African Development Bank to institute or to establish a multinational Lake Victoria Maritime Communication and Transport project. A project that is helping government to not only establish search and rescue centers around the country and indeed around the border district, the water border districts, but has also done a number of ventures, including among others, putting maritime infrastructure on water for it.
An officer at Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, Owomo Kamafred, asked stakeholders to embrace education for awareness creation about search and rescue coordination.
So it's one of the purposes, one of the reasons we've come here, as one of those routine trainings, sensitizations that we do in the whole country. It's an obligation that we pick as a mandate from the International Civil Aviation Organization.
The chairperson Busia Head Teachers Association, Bwire David, urged stakeholders to embrace the program and the pupils and head teachers from respective schools to get sensitized on rescue and such skills.
As chairman of the Teachers Association, we are going to share with my colleagues. And of course, we interact with children who come from families, and the children will also take back the information on how, when an accident of that accident has happened, how the parents or the community should help themselves.
Charity Marion Imnat and Sando Martin, UBC News.
Amanya gange nze Namutebi Sharon nga nkolera wano wennyini Saka Kirombe oba Makindye. Empangula gye nawanguddemu ssente mbadde nga nkozesa mobile money nga nsindika school fees w'omwana ku ssomero. Okutegeera nti mpangudde, nze mutima neegambye nti kambalinde bamale okujja ndyoke nzikirize nti mpangudde. Kyennyinza okubagamba nti si byabafere, weewaawo abafere gye bali, naye ennamba eri emu yokka era bw'eba ekukubidde omanye eyo si yabafere. Mpulira bulungi nnyo era ndi musanyufu nnyo. Naye MTN mobile money mbebaza nnyo, mwebale nnyo, mwebalire.
Together we're unstoppable.
Hi, my name is Rachel Ndubuchiri and I am a Ugandan actress and the winner of the Africa Monologue Challenge 2023. Now, thanks to your immense support, the Africa Monologue Challenge Season 2 is coming to Uganda between July 25th and August 20th. Africa Monologue Challenge is looking for passionate Ugandan storytellers to take part in a Pan-African short film that will showcase Uganda to the rest of the world. To be a part of this, all you have to do is weave a captivating narrative that captures Uganda's cultural heritage while fostering connections between 10 diverse individuals from 10 African countries. This short film will be shared to over 50 film festivals. Now, to find information on the AMC 2024 finalists, visit www.africamonologue.com. Please submit your short script, which should be 10 pages for a short film between 10 to 15 minutes, to africamonologue@gmail.com before 30th June 2024. Now, let's talk about rewards. The selected script will have the writer's full name in the end credits. You will get a chance to collaborate with amazing filmmakers from all over the world. You will get a small token for your creativity, and you remain with full ownership of your script. Let's work together to create a Pan-African film that will echo African stories throughout the world.
predict the outcome of 10 football games and win big with tickets at only 500 shillings. Play for this Monday's draw to stand a chance to win big with Sports Stake 10.
Buy your tickets at authorized shops on nationallottery.go.ug to download the app or simply dial *278#.
Ugandan National Lottery. Dream, play, win.
Participants must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The Uganda National Lottery is operated by Ituba Uganda and regulated by the National Lotteries and Gaming Regulatory Board.
A South African woman, Lulu Letlepe, has joined her counterparts across the continent to turn to beekeeping to generate an income. Since starting her business, she has over 100 hives and lobbies to protect bees while training other women to follow in her footsteps.
Hi, my name is Lulu Letlepe. I'm a beekeeper.
6 years ago, Lulu Letlepe quit the bustle of the city for the buzz of the beehive. On a farm east of South Africa's capital, Pretoria, she founded Bongi Bees. It's not just a business, but also a platform to champion bees for the vital role they play in our ecosystem.
We don't have bees, we want to have food. Because for food to be able to exist, pollination must happen. And that's the importance of bees.
Letlepe's lifestyle change, quitting her job in the city, was prompted by an autoimmune disease. These days, in addition to harvesting honey, she advocates sustainable practices, lobbies to protect bees, and tries to educate her neighbors.
These are babies that are being made by the queen.
And she's also trained 30 women in beekeeping so they can start their own businesses.
Beekeeping has helped me to calm it down. It has helped me understand my environment. It has helped me appreciate nature. And I've been looking at companies that do the same thing with me so that I can get help to do more for bees, to do more for communities.
Globally, bees are in decline. That's due to habitat loss from industrial development and climate change disrupting their life cycles, according to the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. In her small corner of South Africa, Letlepe is fighting back. She has 100 hives, she says, some on her farm, others placed among her neighbors. It's a new city of sorts, in which Letlepe's airborne employees work to pollinate nearby farms and protect the environment.
NATO will roll out concrete ways to accelerate Ukraine's eventual membership in the Atlantic Alliance during a summit next week in Washington. The summit will also address top security concerns amid Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine and challenges in the Indo-Pacific region.
As the Russia-Ukraine war rages on with no end in sight, the United States will host leaders of the 32-member alliance for the annual NATO Summit that runs from July 9th to 11th in Washington. Boosting Ukraine's security and addressing challenges from China are high on the agenda, according to U.S. officials.
Whether that's supporting Ukraine in its defense against Russian aggression, whether that's working with partners to ways in which we can build the resilience of allies to confront the threats and challenges from the PRC, whether this is hybrid threats, cyber threats, these are all the issues that we'll be focusing on at the summit.
The U.S. and its NATO allies have said that Ukraine's future lies in the alliance, and next week the group will unveil concrete steps to bring Ukraine closer towards NATO membership. Some U.S. lawmakers are expressing concern about Ukraine's readiness to join the alliance, even as the embattled country commits itself to internal reforms. But the summit's focus is not just on Ukraine and European security. Analysts note NATO is also beginning to explore a larger role in the Indo-Pacific.
Australia, New Zealand, the Republic of Korea, and Japan are very interested in deepening their cooperation with NATO, and in those areas, not necessarily direct military-to-military cooperation, but some areas of where there is cooperation going on.
In celebration of NATO's 75th anniversary, more than 24 social media influencers have been invited to observe the proceedings and create content to commemorate the milestone. For Nike Ching, Elizabeth Cherneff, VOA News, Washington.
The first debate of the 2024 presidential elections in the U.S. is in the history of books. But the question 1 week later is whether President Joe Biden will remain in the race after a weak performance that has raised questions within his own party about his age and mental fitness to lead. Meanwhile, his opponent Donald Trump is keeping his focus on Biden's shaky performance.
The optics, two elderly men sniping at each other in the first presidential debate. The overwhelming impression is that President Joe Biden at 81 stumbled and at times was difficult to understand or follow. At one point, Biden said, "I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers." At which point Trump responded, "I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either." Now U.S. Representative Lloyd Doggett of Texas is the first Democrat to state publicly that Biden should withdraw from the race. Analysts say that changes the dynamic.
If I had to gamble now, I'd say it's 50-50 more than anything that Biden will not be on the ticket.
Not if the president has anything to do with it. He admits to aging, but points to his competitors' false debate claims.
I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
However, a CNN poll shows 3 out of 4 voters say Democrats have a better chance of winning the presidency without Biden as the party's nominee. Historically, losing the first debate doesn't necessarily doom a presidency.
But what it did do is to...
In 2012, analysts say then-President Barack Obama had a weak debate performance. But then he went on to win re-election.
The reason for the bad first debate was in Obama's case, he just wasn't as prepared, but the next debate came up fairly quickly and he did very well in that. Not exactly the same thing.
In another poor debate performance,
pays for pay and salary, or pay and pension.
President Ronald Reagan appeared confused at age 73.
Still was really at the first debate thought of as not performing well for his age, and came back and had a good second debate. So there's a short-term strategy to shore up the base and a longer-term strategy to really show that this was an aberration and that he is able to act more vigorously and more presidential.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is trying to keep the focus on last week's debate.
Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
Analysts say whether President Biden steps aside depends on his support in the Democratic Party and whether there are more public calls for him to resign from the race. Carolyn Presutti, VOA News.
We thank you so much for watching. That is all we had for you this lunchtime. Keep with us. We'll have more news in the evening in Luganda, Kiswahili, and I'll be here myself for news tonight. So enjoy the next program. Bye-bye.